everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Illuminutty podcast. I'm going to start this episode like I always do with some recruiting nuggets, and I just have to say I love what Ohio State's doing, prioritizing trench players. We're making a big impression for Kellen Hall, the big versatile defensive lineman out of Kentucky. We're making offensive lineman a priority. We got, and I know I'm going to butcher his last name, Jordan Friedich? Friedich. He's big-bodied 6'7" dude, and one sleeper that I know we mentioned on a recruiting video recently that not enough people are talking about is Brock. Oh man, I think he's gonna be a serious dude. He's out of Westerville Central, former home of Ohio State tight end and national champion Nick Vanette. So I'm excited to see whether things get heated up with him. He is 6'7.5", 325. So that's a lot of football player there, and he's making a name for himself, slowly climbing up recruiting boards. And a kid at Glenville that I want to talk up, and he doesn't look like he could play defensive back, not your typical size, 6'4", 200 pounds, but he's a transfer from Solon High School in Ohio, and I think he could be, if nothing else, a versatile weapon for Ohio State, especially if we decide we need another defensive back. I know a lot of people get turned off by his size and think there's no way he's going to stay at defensive back, but let me tell you, this guy is extremely fluid, and if it doesn't work out, you can move him down to linebacker. He's a definite sure tackler and a guy that I really think deserves a second look. And I'm looking on a list of sleepers that we just kind of highlighted on a high school football games to watch video, so stay tuned for that. The database is always updating. Me and Vader are constantly working on it with help from the one and only Podfather. But to my main topic for today, RASHEEM Biles, the linebacker formerly of Pittsburgh, now at Texas, had some very interesting comments when talking about Ohio State showing interest in him during his transfer portal period. He said he ain't trying to be a Buckeye, and I wanted to pick your brain, Podfather, as to what you think about his comments. I have my own thoughts, but let's hear yours first.
Well, I actually heard Joshua Perry talk about this Saturday or Friday morning on my way to work. He was on the radio filling in for T-Bone on the Fan, and he gave an interesting take about it. He said, that you go back and you look at his recruitment coming out of high school, and it's true, Ohio State didn't offer him. But he said neither did Texas or very many Power 4 programs to begin with.
Yep.
So the fact that he took offense to Ohio State was apparently simply based off of geography and not so much based off of the fact that he felt he was an elite program recruit. Because if he took offense to Ohio State, why didn't he take offense to Texas, who he's with now? Why didn't he take offense to them? So Joshua Perry kind of laughed it off a little bit and was like, you know what, if that's what you want for your motivation, feel free, but don't act like you were some kind of can't miss prospect who Ohio State just passed over because for whatever reason. That's number one. Number two, here's another reason why. He had a little bit of a checkered past coming out of high school.
Yes, he did.
So it's not like this was like a saint here, okay, who Ohio State just swung and missed on and really didn't do their due diligence. They did their due diligence, and that was one of the reasons why he never got offered. Not only was he not good enough in the eyes of a lot of the coaching staff who was evaluating his film, but he had a little bit of a past here with his behavior that caused Ohio State to say that's enough red flags that we're not really interested. And then he goes off the pit and obviously cleans his act up and does a great job on the field. And there I remember reporting after last season that Ohio State would be interested in him. And then obviously he comes out and says, "But I wasn't really interested in them." Uh, do you really want someone to be on your team who doesn't want to be there? No. So those are kind of my feelings with it. It's kind of like, why are you crying about it? Obviously, you wanted to be at Ohio State at some point, or you wouldn't be bringing it up with this kind of venom in your comments.
And I have I have a different take on it because I evaluated his film way back when he was first coming out when I worked for the Buckeye Boys, and the thing about him is he was more of a tweener. I don't think we really knew where he was going to fit. Was he a linebacker? Was he going to be an edge guy? I mean, he's a little bit shorter, stockier dude. Like, I don't blame them for passing on him when he didn't have the measurables. He had, as you said, a little bit of a checkered past. Hats off to him for cleaning his act up and getting things right at Pitt. No hate towards the player. He's a good player and everything. But to me, just because you're an Ohio kid, and I know Bart's going to jump on us because he's going to say we're talking out of both sides of our mouth here because we love Ohio high school football and want Ohio State to sign as many Ohio prospects as they can. But when there's a certain number of red flags, you gotta just balance whether they're going to be a fit for your program and how it's going to affect the different rooms that you bring these guys into. And I don't. I thought it was just kind of sour grapes and a bad look for him to say what he did, and for him to say he's got the Texas game against Ohio State circled now and all that stuff. Guess what, buddy? You just gave us a little bit of bulletin board material as well, so that goes both ways, man. We got some boys too that I'm sure will have something to say about your comments. I mean, James Laurinaitis is no slouch at linebacker coach. Now, granted, I don't think he was a linebacker coach when you were first coming out, but dude, we were showing interest in you, and for you to sign with Texas, who also didn't show interest in you coming out of high school, it's just ridiculous. So we're just supposed to offer you just because you're a Pick Central kid? No, you gotta have the talent to play here. You gotta have the character fit to play here. So it just kind of aggravated me, the comments, and just, you gotta take into consideration the culture fit and all the different things that come into it for these coaches and just the team in general. You gotta worry about chemistry and stuff like that. And granted, he might very well ball out and do great at Texas. I hope he does, as long as it's not against us. I mean, no hate whatsoever, but it's just celebrating about look. Don't act like you were some can't miss dude coming out of high school. You were good. 3-star ranking. You improved yourself, improved your game. Things were really looking up for you at Pitt. You decided to go somewhere else and pursue a bigger opportunity. Hats off to you, but to throw shade at a program who was showing interest in you, a team that you grew up rooting for apparently, or this wouldn't be a big issue to begin with. It's just kind of Bush League, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think Bush League is a very good description for this, Mika. Absolutely. And let me speak to the having the game circled comment that he made. You better have that game circled. Every player on both sides of the ball, every coach on both teams should have that game circled. It's an elite game. It's one of the best games of the season, in the entire season of college football. Ohio State traveling down to Austin, Texas, and defending the Big Ten while Texas tries to put the SEC back into national prominence. This is a huge game. Arch Manning, senior season. Jeremiah Smith coming off a game against Texas where last season where he didn't do that great, but it was the first game of the year with a brand new starting quarterback. Like there's a lot about this game where you should have it circled. Us fans have it circled. Like to me
That's
that's a throwaway comment because it's like everybody should have that game circled.
That's what I'm saying. If you need outside motivation for a game like this, you're in the wrong sport, man. Everybody's got this game circled. I've had this game circled since it wasn't announced. Since last year. I mean, everybody's got something to prove. J.J. Smith, the country's best wide receiver, hands down, has something to prove in this game. Julian Sane has something to prove, whether he can run, show off his legs a little bit more. Our secondary, everybody on the field during this game is going to have something to prove. Like, to act like you're the only one out there that, I had this game circled. Well, congratulations, so did the rest of the country.
100%. Yes. So did the rest of the country. So the circle comment, whatever. Yeah, I can do without. I think this opens up a bigger topic, Meek, and I don't know if you want to go down this path or
I was,
not. This
I was
this is
going,
your show, so I'll turn it back over to you. Go ahead.
yeah, this opens the question are we, running the risk of making these kids too entitled? Does being born in a state and being a football player of a certain caliber, does it come with too much of a sense of entitlement for these players? What do you think, Podfather? I think we run the risk of that if it's not managed well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from with that mindset. I typically, so I think there's a fine line.
There is.
I think that you can rely too much on homegrown talent, and it can create a silo effect where you're not paying enough attention to what's going on nationally, and then if you happen to win the Big Ten or whatever, and then you go into the postseason, you get blitzkrieged by a bigger, stronger, faster team because you're playing old fashioned Big Ten football. I mean, that was kind of what happened a little bit to Tressel at the end of Tressel's era, where he was really good at winning the Big Ten. He recruited the state of Ohio exceptionally well, but when we got on the national stage, um, we weren't able to compete because we didn't have the speed of the SEC. And so when Urban came on, he changed that immediately and said, "We know we need to recruit nationally because we're going to need that speed. But at the same time, when you do that, especially in this era now of the transfer portal, I think you run the risk of kind of losing your identity of who you are as a state, right?
Yeah.
And so I take the stance, and again, even though Bart, like you brought up Bart, you said, you say that Bart might be a little upset that we're, giving too much love to Ohio kids. I think we need to give more love to Ohio kids than what we have recently for an identity purpose. But I'm not saying we need to go back to the Tressel days of recruiting 18, 20 to 15 to 20 kids from the state of Ohio. I would like to see that number 10 to 12 every year if possible. But the five that we're getting, that's way too low in my opinion.
I
You
agree.
run the risk of losing your identity.
I agree with you, and it's more of a prospect to pro, prospect to prospect basis. You gotta evaluate the kid and whether or not he actually adds value to the program. I do want to see us get more in on Ohio high school recruits and bring in these guys that, if they were um, Florida kids, Texas kids, stuff like that, they might be ranked higher, but just because they're Ohio kids, like a lot of them don't get the eyeballs that some of the national kids do, but I do want to see that become more of an identity for us. But again, I think you gotta take into consideration the character, and I know you brought up Trussell and everything, and how we prioritized Ohio kids back in that era. Urban Meyer was famous as saying that he liked to wait for senior film to come out to evaluate guys, maybe some fringe guys and stuff. And I think the era of like the transfer portal and NIL and stuff has sped everyone's timeline up a little unrealistically. Like these guys think that if you're not shown love right away, that automatically means a program is not high enough on you and stuff. And I would just practice patience when it comes to all that, because football is a very physical sport. These guys are just going into their bodies and stuff. A lot of them are getting used to different positions. A lot of them go through coaching changes and schematic changes and stuff like that. So if you're not given love right away out of high school, your senior year, whatever, take a page out of what Urban Meyer says. These teams will, if you're good enough to play here, whether it be in the transfer portal or out of high school, and you don't show it till your senior year, we do an excellent job of finding these guys and making them Buckeyes and making sure they're good fits for this program. I mentioned some guys earlier on in the video that Kai Robinson, the Glenville kid that we might circle back on. I think he deserves a second look, and that's a great example of a guy that, it might take him to his senior year to start getting attention from Ohio State and national programs, but it doesn't mean it's not going to come, and he's not out here throwing fits and making a showing because it doesn't come. He's just focused on keeping his head down and being a baller, and that's the kind of kids you want suiting up for Ohio State. So I just wanted to touch on the comments and get your opinion, and just it got me fired up when I read it. I thought it was, like I said, I thought it was Bush League, and we can be better than that. I'm not gonna hate on the kid. It's done, but I'm excited for the matchup. I'll tell you that for sure. It adds a little extra spice. Not that there needed to be any, because like I said, that's if you need outside motivation for that game, you're in the wrong sport. But I want to hear everyone's opinion in the comments. What did you think think about the comments that he made about Ohio State? Should we have tried harder to pursue him? Do we need to bring in more Ohio kids? Does it affect our identity when we don't? Are you okay with how things are going? Does the transfer portal era and geography lead to a sense of entitlement from these players? Let me know all these thoughts and more in the comments. Please like, share, and buy our Illuminati merchandise if you want to help me get paid. Every little bit helps. And please check out our Ohio High School games to watch video. And we did one national game to watch. And check out our database over on the Ohio Podcast Patreon. We're constantly updating that. And I got some really interesting sleeper picks incoming that nobody's talking about yet. So stay tuned for that. And as always, OH,
IO.
go Bucks, and Scum still sucks.